Ben Franklin is a fascinating character. I just finished his autobiography, and beyond the well-known inventions and clever phrases, I was surprised to find several stories that are less well-known and pieces of wisdom that still ring true today. Here are 3 of my favorite lessons from Ben Franklin's autobiography. Number 1, it never hurts to ask. In this first story, Ben Franklin's already a pretty well-known guy in Philadelphia, and one of the reverends in town comes to him to ask for advice on how to raise money. And Franklin gave the following advice. First, ask those whom you know will give you something. Next, ask those whom you are uncertain. And lastly, ask those who you are sure will not give you anything, for you may be mistaken. I love this advice, and especially that last line, because it really captures this essence of seeking opportunities and going out of your comfort zone. How many opportunities are missed just because we never reach for them? Whether it's asking for help or trying to get that new job, or just connecting with someone you admire. It's part of the human condition to be afraid of hearing no, of being rejected. In these instances, Franklin's words are a great reminder. I got both my first internship and my first job from cold emailing, even though the odds for a response were super low. I actually started making videos after I made an application for NOS Daily when I had no video experience at all. And I DM'd Dave Chappelle to ask him to be on my podcast, and I'm still waiting for a response on that one. You miss 100% of the shots you don't take, and Franklin reminds us that it can be good to take a moonshot every now and then. Number 2, to live life with intention, you need structure. So it turns out Franklin was a pretty intense dude. In one excerpt, he says, "It was about this time I conceived the bold and arduous project of arriving at moral perfection. I wished to live without committing any fault at any time. I would conquer all that either natural inclination, custom, or company might lead me into. As I knew or thought I knew what was right and wrong, I did not see why I might not always do the one and avoid the other." But he goes on to say, "I soon found that I had undertaken a task of more difficulty than I had imagined. Inclination was sometimes too strong for reason." We've all been there. Whether you're trying to live your best life, or cut out a bad habit, or build a new one, it takes more than just knowing what's the right thing to do to actually do it. And Franklin realized that in order to consistently do the right thing, you needed to have more than just reason, but you needed to add structure. In one of his more famous examples, Franklin put together a list of 13 virtues and chose to focus on one every single week. If you haven't heard of these, they're definitely worth reading up on, but the part that stood out to me was how he used structure to live up to these principles. He tracked his progress with a notebook where he would make a mark on each day he didn't live up to a virtue. On one page of his book, Franklin even included an hour-by-hour schedule of his day. With this structure, Franklin noted that I was surprised to find myself so much fuller of faults than I had imagined, but I had the satisfaction of seeing them diminish. Franklin's lesson is still valuable today. It's one thing to think about our goals and aspirations in life, and another to execute and follow through. Franklin reminds us that even if intellectually we know the right thing to do, that is just part of human nature, that inclination and temptation and just laziness can quickly override any of our plans. Sometimes what we need is not a stronger intention or to work harder, but to add structure in our life so that we can think less and do more. I do appreciate one more thing he brought up on this topic when he said, "I never arrived at the perfection I had been so ambitious of obtaining, but fell far short of it. Yet I was by the endeavor a better and happier man than I otherwise should have been if I had not attempted." So we shouldn't beat ourselves up if we don't always reach our goals. And even if you don't get to 100% of what you were searching for, the act of trying will surely have made you a better person. Number 3, to find meaning, start small. While living in London, Franklin noticed that the streets were pretty much never cleaned. Over time, dust and dirt would accumulate to the point that when it rained, the streets would basically be unusable. He realized that the reason that the streets weren't being cleaned was that the dust that was swept up would enter homes through the windows. So he conjured up a plan where he hired workers to sweep the streets earlier in the morning when the windows were closed and the businesses hadn't opened. And it worked. The streets were kept clean and the system was adopted by the community. So you might be thinking, okay, this seems kind of like a minor project. Why does he actually bring this up? And the part of the story that really fascinated me is how he thought about the impact. He says, "Though dust blown into the eyes of a single person or into a single shop on a windy day is but of small importance, the great number of instances and its frequent repetitions give it weight and consequence. Human happiness is produced not so much by great pieces of good fortune that seldom happen, but by little advantages that occur every day." I think Franklin's thoughts on this are quite profound. Specifically that meaning, purpose, and happiness don't necessarily come from those big achievements and milestones, but by the little steps we take every single day to get there. It's picking up that one piece of litter at the park, or greeting that stranger with a friendly smile, or just returning your shopping cart. Any one of these might seem trivial on its own, but when you add these up over the course of your life and take into account the actions of the community, they truly do make a difference and have meaning. And I think that's just a really powerful idea, that our individual actions really do matter, and that we can improve ourselves and the world by just taking little steps every single day. Thank you so much for watching. As you can tell, I am experimenting a bit with this channel, putting out videos of a bunch of different genres. So if you like this video and are interested in following along, please consider subscribing, and I'll see you next time.